What is going on with ZwiftPower? I'm going to talk through what's happening, why it's happening, what I think the outcomes will be, and what I think we can do about it. First, a little history. ZwiftPower was developed as a tool for racers to track their progress, track their race results. This was a tool that the community developed because there was really no support for racing on the platform. So this became a place that houses power data over time, race results, all kinds of metrics that let Zwift racers evaluate their own performances as well as the performances of their competitors. Also, you can see all the events right here. It's a great place to find events, see who's signed up for them, see what the field quality is. It hosts a ranking system. It's a really robust tool. So it made sense to me when we found out that Zwift was buying ZwiftPower last year. It makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of efficiency to be found. ZwiftPower being a separate entity, you had to go sign up for a different thing to see your race results. It was a complicated system, needlessly complicated. And my hope was that by Zwift bringing it on board, we would see more functionality, better functionality. Things would happen more easily and automatically. That has not been the case. So this week, this post has gone up on the Zwift forums, alerting everyone to changes that Zwift is making around community welfare and anti-harassment. So those changes are increased reporting on the app and changes to what metrics are reported both in Zwift and in ZwiftPower. I won't go too much into detail on this post. I think this Zwift Insider article does a really good job of breaking it down. So new reporting features, this is something they've been missing for a long time. I think almost any internet-based game, social network, company, anything like that needs to have a pretty robust feature for flagging or reporting or blocking users that are being abusive. This makes a ton of sense.
Oh, that's good.
This, on the other hand, is something a little bit different. Hiding people's weight and height. Height doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if people were getting bullied about their height, but if they were, stop that. Don't do that. Hiding people's weight by default, I think, is probably a good move. Cycling is already a weight-obsessed sport. It can cause problems with disordered eating, things that are legitimate, serious problems. But Zwift's approach in attacking it here seems a little bit toothless, and I suspect there's a separate agenda. What do I think is really going on with ZwiftPower? So when Zwift bought ZwiftPower, I had hoped that it would get better, but it almost immediately got worse, continually crashing, features not working, results not populating correctly, which didn't make sense to me. Why would they buy it and then let it get worse? It seems like they recognize the value of the tool, and that's why they would want to pay to bring it in-house. The first clue came when they shut down the ZwiftPower forums, which were a place where a lot of people complained about racing, argued, but also a lot of community was built. ZwiftPower forums were taken down and moved to the Zwift website. Now, the thing that was left out in that migration was each of these individual events used to have its own forum, which was basically like the parking lot after the race, which obviously there's a lot of high fives, good games. There's a lot of people being mad at each other because they were attacking in the race and doing battle. That's just kind of how racing is in real life and on the internet. I wasn't on it all that much. I didn't really care, but stripping features away and not adding any was not a great sign. So coming back to this, weight and height no longer public. I think weight and height no longer being public on Zwift makes a lot of sense. I think when you opt into Zwift, it shouldn't automatically be displaying your weight and height data for everyone. Who cares? Most people on Zwift are just there to ride around, do a workout, see some friends, whatever. Where I think it is crucial is racing. There's always a perception that everyone on Zwift is cheating. I was getting a bike fit last week and the fitter asked me, hey, you've been doing a lot of that Zwift racing. Isn't everyone cheating? And I told him, sure, some people are cheating on Zwift, but by and large, we're trying to be as transparent as we possibly can and trusting that others are doing the same. This move might blow up that trust to some degree. So another thing that set off alarm bells for me is that in Zwift races recently, especially on the main broadcast, they've been having a problem with this not matching what we're seeing on screen. So you might see someone cross the line on the broadcast and then they don't actually win. The newest positioning, it's complicated. There are other videos about that. So what was their answer to that? Zwift has since developed this, which does clean up the display. This is the official broadcast from one of their recent races. So this does clean up the screen a little bit, but also you lose that rider position link. So you can't really tell who's who and where they are. So effectively, You can no longer tell if what you're seeing on screen is matching the back end. This is what I'm getting at. Rather than fixing a problem, they're taking away the evidence that a problem exists. I think that was true on the now locked forum. Losing that forum was a way for them to take away the place that people were complaining rather than address the things that people were complaining about. I think that's true with losing this display on the broadcasts. And finally, I think that's true here. They recognize that there's a perception that people are cheating on Zwift, and rather than address that cheating or increase transparency or something, what they're doing is removing the evidence that people might be cheating. Might work in theory, but I think we're probably going to see more berating because everyone is always going to assume everyone else is cheating. And I think that's going to lead to increased arguing. Now, what you may see is anyone arguing or anyone talking about cheating at all is immediately going to be flagged and reprimanded in some way, which would also have negative effects. So I suspect that Zwift's attempt to tamp down on harassment and arguing and accusations of cheating may have the exact opposite effect. What can we do about it? There are a couple things. None of them are great. One is eBioPassport. This is a third-party website that hosts verification stuff, outside power validation data, weigh-in and calibration videos. So this is kind of a one-stop shop. I can just put this stuff up here and hopefully other people can look at it and say, that Jonathan guy seems like he's not trying to pull one over on e-racing. And I think the other obvious one is explore other platforms. eBioPassport is completely platform agnostic. You can post an eBioPassport and use any racing software. I have a feeling Zwift is going to probably clamp down on it. RGT, on the other hand, is encouraging eBioPassport. And there are other platforms out there that I'm willing to try as well. Whoosh, OneLap. Veloton is still currently one player, but I'm up for that as well. I think it may be time to explore other racing. Now, am I done with Zwift? No, I'm not done with Zwift. I'm just frustrated with Zwift. I have a whole YouTube channel that is about Zwift racing. I've spent the last year really diving into it, getting invested in it, building this whole setup, and convincing people that it's legitimate. And it seems like this move is not going to increase that legitimacy at all. One important note is that they're leaving the weigh-ins and all of the protocol for the top level of racers. And I think the most notable cases I can think of all involve that Premier League level of racer who will still be subject to weigh-ins, which would still cause you to think about weight too much and potentially have an unhealthy relationship with it. One other caveat I want to add. If they remove weight but not watts per kg, people are saying we can just reverse engineer everyone's weight, which is true. So that makes this stupid from either perspective. Either it's just a little simple math, it's just more work to get to the information, but it's all there. Or they're going to remove everyone's watts per kg, which is what the entire Zwift categorization system is built on. And that wouldn't make any sense either. So I just don't see a way that this makes sense. Do you guys? Am I missing something? Maybe I'm wrong about this. I don't know. Tell me in the comments. Let's talk about it. This is definitely a subject that needs some exploration.